Imagine this, you blink, and the universe stops blinking back. No wind, no light, no sound, atoms, frozen. Time, paralyzed. Your heart, mid-beat. What if the universe just froze in place? Would we be suspended like statues, or would we be erased in a cosmic glitch? Let's unravel what freezing the universe really means scientifically. To understand this wild idea, let's define what we mean by froze. We're not talking about winter temperatures. We mean everything: matter, energy, space, and time, suddenly halting. Atoms no longer vibrate. Electrons stop orbiting nuclei. Light rays freeze mid-path. Even time stops ticking. In physics, this would imply an absolute halt of all motion across the entire fabric of space-time. A total entropy lockdown. But here's the twist: motion is what defines existence. If motion ceases, so does energy, so do forces, so do you. Let's break this frozen apocalypse into stages, starting from the smallest scale and zooming out. At the smallest level, all matter is made up of particles that are constantly in motion. Even in absolute zero conditions, particles exhibit something called quantum fluctuations, the tiniest jittering that's built into the universe. If the universe froze, these fluctuations would stop. But quantum physics says this is impossible. A total freeze violates Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, a cornerstone of physics that states you can precisely know both a particle's position and velocity. If it's not moving, you know both. That's a paradox. In short, if particles stop, quantum mechanics breaks. Now scale up to atoms. In every atom, electrons orbit the nucleus in extremely high-speed shells. That motion keeps atoms stable. But if we freeze the universe, those electrons, they just stop. And that means atoms collapse. No more chemistry, no reactions, no bonds. Water molecules disintegrate. DNA unravels. Your body becomes an unstable soup of proton dust. And what about the air you're breathing right now? That, too, would vanish. Oxygen would no longer bind to hemoglobin. Every breath, pointless. Now let's talk about light. Light is a wave, a particle, and above all a traveler. It's constantly moving at 299,792 kilometers per second. If the universe froze, light would stop mid-flight. The sun's rays would never reach your eyes. Shadows would freeze. Reflections on water would be like frozen photos. Everything goes dark, not because light is turned off, but because it can no longer reach anything. Even your own vision would shut down because your brain needs light to process reality. And now, there is none. Let's get personal. What happens to you? Every human function, blinking, breathing, thinking, depends on motion. Neurons fire through electrical impulses, triggered by chemical reactions. These signals rely on ion exchange and protein motion within cells. Freeze that, and everything stops. You wouldn't even know it. Your brain wouldn't have time to process the freeze. It would be like being paused in a dream, with no way to wake up. Worse still, your body would break apart from within. Cells begin to decay as molecular structures weaken without energy exchanges. And there's no immune response, no healing, just cellular silence. Now zoom out. What happens to stars, planets, the entire universe? Galaxies would appear like stunning photographs locked in their spiral arms. But gravity, the glue holding it all together, is actually a result of the warping of space-time, as described by Einstein. If time itself freezes, gravity fails. So every structure held together by gravity, planets in orbit, stars and galaxies, even black holes, would be stuck. But with gravitational effects paused, instability creeps in. Collapsing stars would be stuck mid-collapse. Supernovas halted before the bang. The universe would become a graveyard of paused catastrophes. But here's the catch, the truly mind-bending part. If the entire universe froze, it wouldn't just be planets, stars, and atoms that stop. time itself would come to a halt. That's right, not slowed, not disrupted, but frozen completely. To understand why, we have to zoom out one more time. In modern physics, time isn't some ticking clock separate from space. Instead, it's woven into a single four-dimensional fabric called spacetime. Every motion, every heartbeat, every beam of light, it's all a ripple in this fabric. So when we say the universe froze, we don't just mean everything stopped moving. We mean everything stopped happening. And that leads to a terrifying realization. You wouldn't know the universe froze. You wouldn't feel it. In fact, no one would. Because perception itself, thought, memory, awareness, relies on the passage of time. If the clock stops ticking, so does everything else, including your consciousness. It's not death. It's not sleep. It's nothing. A complete pause in existence. It would be like the entire universe being paused on a cosmic remote control, with no hand to press play again. And if this freeze occurred instantly, the last moment of awareness you'd ever have would be just before it happened. That smile you gave, that final blink, stuck forever in a universe that no longer moves. But here's where things get strange, and maybe even a little hopeful. Some theories in quantum mechanics suggest that not everything in the universe is perfectly predictable. On the tiniest level, smaller than atoms, particles can fluctuate randomly. They don't always behave in strict, frozen patterns. So what if, even in a universe frozen solid, a quantum event triggered a break in the stillness? Imagine this. A photon, the smallest possible particle of light, flickers, just one. Somewhere in the vast cosmic dark, it moves. That single shift could cause a domino effect, unfreezing a portion of the universe one atom at a time. First, time ticks forward again in a localized pocket. Then, like heat spreading through ice, motion returns, bit by bit. Stars start shining again. Gravity regains its grip. Planets resume their orbits, or what's left of them does. But now the universe is different, because reboots don't always restore things exactly as they were. In this reborn cosmos, the speed of light might be different. Gravity might push instead of pull. Entire galaxies might spin the opposite way. Even time itself might run backward. From this frozen collapse could emerge a completely new reality, one unrecognizable to us, with entirely new laws of physics, new particles, and perhaps even new forms of life. Would we ever be part of it? Probably not. But maybe, just maybe, in some unimaginable corner of space-time, some trace of us would remain. A fossil in the fabric. A ghost of the universe that once moved. So what began as a thought experiment about a universal freeze ends with a philosophical twist. Even in the total absence of time, could something, anything, ever begin again? Or is stillness the final truth? That's the haunting part. We always assume the end will be loud. Explosions, heat, chaos. But what if the end is quiet? What if the last chapter of existence is simply nothing moves, nothing thinks, nothing knows, forever? Now it's your turn to imagine. If the universe froze and time stopped, would we ever notice? Could something eventually wake it all up again? Tell us your wildest theories in the comments. We love reading your ideas, even the weird ones. And if you want to keep exploring these insane, brain-twisting scenarios with us, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and ring the bell, so you never miss another moment, even if time itself disappears. Thanks for watching, and remember, in science, the weirder it gets, the closer we might be to the truth.